We did not know a lot about Manuela, but through our great-grandmother, we were able to pick up some information. Overall, these Sotelo women were pretty tough. They had to live out on the frontier. They had hard lives. It was not easy for them. Life in general was very difficult at that time.
Manuela had 11 children and over 60 grandchildren. And one of those grandchildren was my grandmother. Her husband had already been here for about a year. When they went back to Tucson to bring the family here in 1870, he died on the way to Tempe, but Manuela kept on coming.
It was hard in Tempe too. It would have been hard for a man and a woman together, and for a woman who was a widow by this time, with 10 children to worry about, it was that much harder for her.
She was able to farm in a self-sustaining way. She was able to grow crops better than most to self-sustain her family and grow enough crops to make it last the whole year.
As farmers in Tempe were growing cotton, of course everyone needs to eat. She went the opposite way. Manuela grew vegetables because these people needed to have something else to eat.
It provided a template for other individuals to come into the valley and start farming.
The newcomers, when they started coming, Manuela acted as the welcoming committee, handing out seeds and even housing some of them until their houses were built.
So she became a very well-known businesswoman for her part in growing fields of vegetables and so on. She was the first Hispanic businesswoman, and she helped to settle Tempe.
She finished filing on the claim that her husband had started. This was the land that she later divided into lots and sold to the newcomers, and called her Tempe's first real estate developer.
Manuela taught her children, and she was an inspiration to her children, to self-sustain themselves over a period of time through all the hardships that they endured.
Maria was the eldest daughter of Manuela. All the Sotelo girls were very close to one another, and they were also very close to Manuela.
Maria married Winchester Miller shortly after they arrived in Tempe. He was in charge of the canals at the time, and so he built her a house which would have been in Lehigh.
She was left with a great legacy from her husband, Winchester Miller, of a lot of property. She was a very good citizen. She promoted education.
Most of her children went on to higher education. The family has always said that Maria had donated some of her land to what is now ASU, but I have never found any proof of that. There are some papers missing in the recorder's office for those years, which might have included the donation.
She was very insightful, fearless. She passed it on to our grandmother. My dad said our grandmother could run a team of horses and plow a field just as well as a man could.
But she really promoted her daughter, Maria, to go on to school. She believed in education, even though she didn't read or write.
You can almost say that Maria is probably a carbon copy of her mother. I think that Manuela's story is Maria's story.
To us, she's a great inspiration, and hopefully we can share that story, her story, so it inspires other folks.